Hey guys, today we're going to be covering two different options we can use for a 3.22 Atlas strategy. I think these are fairly universal in that they can be used for any build out there. However, I do want to provide context not only on how to make the most out of these different trees, but also context specifically to my Leaguestart of choice, which is a Spark character. So the first one here we made with the community on Twitch together, and it is one that specializes in Blight. And the second one, I actually just yoinked from one of my favorite pro players' phase plays. It is a Wandering Path strategy that uses harvests and expeditions. So I think I can explain this pretty well. So we'll go over this in the second half of the video, but we'll start with this one, which is the Blighted strategy. So on a league start, just in general, you're going to want to get a lot of these maps have chance to be found one tier higher, because this is going to help progress your Atlas. So we're going to want to grab these nodes pretty early on. This is simply a pathing node to get over here. We don't actually care about the effects. We just want these small nodes. You can get more nodes over here with Shaping the Skies, and then you can take this little gateway over here to grab Shaping the Mountains, and that's going to be a lot more chance to be scaling your Atlas. And while we're over here, Stream of Consciousness, it disables the use of Scarabs. And just FYI, later on in the strategy, we're going to want to be using rusted Blight Scarabs every single time we do a map. So we're not going to keep this on forever, but just on a league start, like day one, while we're going through the maps, might as well just pick this up while we're over here. It's 2 extra points. As for the nodes in here, eventually you will respec these. I think Kirak missions are really good for filling in the gaps of the maps we're missing. So I like to spec into this day one, and then later on we'll probably just grab 7th gate and we'll save a ton of points over here. For Spark in particular, I would suggest your league start strategy involve the shrine node here, where we guarantee a shrine, as well as these two shrine nodes. And this is because for Spark as a skill, I think it is the best skill to use with shrines, probably. The Acceleration Shrine and the Spell Echo Shrine make the build feel ridiculous. So this is what, like 4 points over here, 5 points over here. I never take off shrines unless I'm doing a Wandering Path strat. There is going to be shrines on my tree if I'm playing Spark. So just keep that in mind. These are here for Spark. As for the rest of the tree, eventually you'll get your way over here, and this is the final 2 points where it gives us higher chance to get maps 1 tier higher. You don't need to rush up here, but just make note, it's here, the middle, and down here. As for doing blights themselves, this strategy doesn't really come online until we get into T13 maps, because T13 is when you can start getting all the best drops from Blight. So don't worry too much about having all the Blight nodes until we're close to completing this tree. So as you fill in the rest, it depends on your league start and what you feel comfortable with. Obviously, essences are good no matter what tier the map is, so it might make sense to grab the essence components first. Some here, some here, some here. Now, I think a lot of people are going to be doing essences on league start, so the market may be saturated. But I mean, I just like essences in general. I like to craft with them. I don't mind having a bunch of them, whether they're going to be very profitable or not. It's just some free stuff to do early on. The reason Deli is on here, it's just 4 nodes here and then some nodes here. Deli can make the game pretty hard, but when you're doing a Blight strat, you want to pick a really narrow map that's linear, and it just so happens the 2 best maps for this league are going to be Carcass and Underground River. I think Deli is going to be pretty good on those as well, because, well, especially Underground River, it's just a long line, so it's really easy to be able to complete the mirror on that map. It's one of the better Deli mirror maps anyways. And coupled with that, this is simply right on the passive tree, so there's no traveling at all to pick up these nodes. They're pretty good value. If they weren't so close to the tree, I don't think I would take them. It's just simply because of proximity. Now, all the blight nodes are important. You're going to be making a lot of money by having these anointed jewelry drops and then using the oil extractor on them. Now, if you're using what is it, PoE Awakened trade macro, something like that, if you click on the item, it's going to tell you if you price check the item, I mean, it's going to tell you if there's a good oil. So you can get a lot of free golden and silver oils this way. You want to make sure to grab these 2 lucky blight chest points because they read variety of items contained in 1 blight chest and your maps are lucky. And since we're going to do this strat either on Carcass or Underground River, which is trying to force only 1 blight chest, that means everything in that chest will be lucky if we do get the one thing, and it's just great. As for points I don't have spec'd, in order to make this strat a little bit stronger, but also a little harder, you can spec over here. Now, I'm not including this in the strategy, but by the time you would do this, you would clearly want to take off Stream of Consciousness, because once you start doing Blight, you no longer want Stream of Consciousness. You need to be using the Blight Scarab every single time. Obviously, these points get unspec'd as well once we start taking Blight Scarabs. So there are several options you can take in order to spec over here. We also have a few extra points, but I don't think you're going to go all the way up to 132 if you're doing this strat. You just want to get this tree completed and just right away start pumping out those blighted maps. Make sure you're doing T13 maps or higher. Make sure you choose Carcass or Underground River, because those are going to give you the 1 lane most often, and that's where you really hit the jackpot. And if you're playing Spark in particular, these shrine nodes they're too good to skip. All right, moving on to phase plays, Wandering Path strategy. Now I'm going to do my best to give the context in this, but clearly I might be missing some stuff because this wasn't designed by me. I did want to make a Wandering Path tree regardless, but when I saw the tree made by FaZe, this just makes sense. I don't think I would have made a better one than this, so I'm going to be using this one. If you want to see either of these trees being used on Leaguestart, I think FaZe is probably going to be running this once he finishes the race and migrates to hardcore trade. And I will definitely be running both of these strats, so depending what time you tune on to the Twitch stream, I'll be either doing the Blight one or this one. So for context, a Wandering Path strat is good on a Leaguestart since we grab a lot of these small nodes that give chance to drop a connected map, and once we are able to reach Wandering Path, everything doubles. All the small nodes double. But the downside is you can't take any of these notables, so just keep that in mind. You can still take keystones though. This is good on a Leaguestart because when you have twice the odds of dropping a connected map, you're going to be able to get all the way up to T16s really fast. This is going to be a very fast way to do that. And this actually leverages Growing Hordes. It sort of double dips in Growing Hordes. So once you have the tree pretty much complete and you actually want to start running this strat as intended, you are going to need to use 3 rusted scarabs combined with your map and the map device every single time, because these scarabs get insane value. That's the whole premise behind this tree. It's extreme value for what you put in. It's a very budget conscious strategy that will still provide you huge returns, and let's explain why. So these scarabs give pack size, and pack size scales harvest and it scales expedition very, very well. So this tree is entirely focused on the 2 best league mechanics for pack size, and it's giving us a lot of pack size. We will naturally have a pretty high chance of getting expedition as well as harvest. I can actually tell you right now what those chances are. So for expedition, we actually have an 80% chance to get expedition in our maps because the tree is giving us 72%, and there's also a base chance just no matter what you're doing to get expedition. So 4 out of 5 times you are going to have an expedition in your map, which is really nice. And then for harvest, it is lower. Where is it? But harvest also has a 8% chance. So there's a 60% chance plus 8. So it's a 68% chance to get a harvest and a 78% chance to get an expedition. So in a lot of maps, you're going to get both expedition and harvest. In some maps, you're going to get one. You're very likely not to get either. And you're going to get a lot of extra life force because of the pack size from Growing Hordes. And for expedition, you're going to get more rewards from that as well. I think I should go over these nodes here, like 7th gate, bold undertakings. Don't read too much into that. That is simply to path towards these map chance nodes. So we don't care about these effects. It's just, you know, you have to get these somehow. So we're going through them. Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward tree. I think it's very high value. You could do Wrath of the Cosmos. You could actually do Eldritch Gaze. Because Eldritch Gaze, the advantage of this is if you kill the boss right away, these altars have a chance to give you quant and pack size, and quant and pack size are also really good for harvest. So maybe on a league start, you might want to do this red altar just to get like a bunch of chisels, chaos and stuff. But actually, I would probably switch over to Eldritch Gaze fairly quickly, just because then, yeah, just rush the boss, kill the boss, so you can only get the good rewards from the altars, and always choose quant, the quant option if you get it. That would be a way to sort of scale this further. And another way to scale this is to grab this whole upper little hat of the tree. This will make the map significantly harder. So I do agree with how FaZe set this up to not have any of this spec'd. But this also just goes to show this strategy will scale with your character. So as you feel your character becoming more and more powerful, just spec up all of this. As you see, we're 1 point over now, but once you're really deep into the game, there's some things you can take off. Like, you don't need to have all of these adjacent map drop. You can take off map 1 to 8. Like, you'll find stuff to take off to spec all this. But once your character is more powerful, something like this might make a little bit more sense. Now, I hope I provided some good context for this. Obviously, maybe I'm missing some small things, but this is how I see this Wandering Path tree working out on a league start, and I think is a really solid option. All right, so that wraps up the 2 trees I plan to use on league start. Now, again, you can find them in the description below, but I am going to have them as the base versions without any of the optional tech you can do as you are advancing. So again, like, this is probably going to go on over here to start. We're not going to have the top tree. It's going to be the base league start version. And for this one, it's going to start with Stream of Consciousness. Just remember, you want to eventually go over to Immune Response once you get stronger, and you definitely want to not use this and use a Blight Scarab every single map, because really, like, you get a lot of rewards from Blight, and you cannot afford to not have it. So just remember to make those adjustments as you scale. I might have like a initial tree and then completely final tree. That might make more sense. So there might be 4 links in the description. And tomorrow, maybe we'll do, specifically for Spark, a tier list of all the different league mechanics. I think that might make a fun video, so you can look out for that right before the league launches. And we'll just rank them all, because you don't have to be stuck with either of these 2 strats. You know, Atlas Tree, incredibly flexible. At the end of the day, you should do what you like the most. That obviously also makes some sort of sense based on your league start. All right, hope you enjoy the video. I'll see y'all on Twitch.